Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the latest PSX. I'm your host, Sonny. As you can see, I'm joined by Alex Sylvester. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing freaking E3 fantastic. That's what I'm doing.
It's been crazy. It's been crazy.
It's been a great,
and
it's been a
this
great week.
specific show, in the link of this description, you can find my reaction to the Xbox experience briefing, Bethesda conference show, the amount of names they wanted to call it. But we wanted to get Alex's opinions on it because obviously he has some very strong opinions on it, and it'll be really interesting to hear what Alex has to say about it. But Alex, I have to give Xbox credit where credit's due to start with. This is the first time in a long time, not from the games, they had the pacing on Sony's level. You know how Sony tends to pace a briefing, and it's just like it's well planned out, it transitions well. People are on the stage just for the short amount of time, which is what it needs. There was no over talking like Phil Spencer likes to read from the Bible when he's on stage usually. And, you know, it's a bit all over the place, Xbox. So
yeah, it is.
For me, it was really nice. Before we get into the games, just your thoughts on just the actual presentation as a whole, as a presentation that is.
Presentation was top notch. It was top notch. It's exactly what you'd expect either Sony or Nintendo to do. It had great pacing. It didn't really lull. And they had a lot of content to show people, which is exactly what they needed after that food part that they had at the last event when they showed Halo in its complete in pieces. But this one, they learned from their mistakes and they didn't underperform. It was a good show, definitely, man.
Excellent. Well, obviously the meat of the show was games. Well, there was a Game Pass advert, which was great for obviously Game Pass customers and stuff. But I mean, I don't want to go over every single game, but I mean,
why not, man?
some of them were.
There's only 30 of them, you know. It's all right. They're all freaking quality.
No matter what, like Xbox fanboys want to say, as they did in commenting in my the YouTube video, and they're like, some of those games, they don't need to be commented on. But Alex, no Starfield gameplay. What's going on?
Yeah, as I mean, come on, we kind of hoped, you know. I mean, before E3, this is exactly, it's like Christmas, isn't it? You just hope that you're going to get everything you wanted, and you realize you're going to just get just one game because all the rest of them have been sold out. That's the same type of feeling that I felt as soon as we only saw the video, you know, for Starfield. And like, it's early in development, right? So we'll see what's going to happen with it. But it would have been nice to see a little bit of gameplay just to give an idea of exactly what's going on. But I think people were being Xbox was just holding their cards really close to their chest to make sure that they don't just reveal everything. You know, they've got to have something to keep even PlayStation fans wanting to come back for more to find out exactly what the hell Starfield's all about. So yeah, they played it well. How about
I know, but you got to look at it from a sense of that you've got no Sony. This is a great opportunity. You had all the games that you announced last year, you know, from your new acquired studios, and then you bought Bethesda in that time. You would have thought that with no Sony there, this is your opportunity to really showcase some stuff. And you got to remember, like, there's great moments in E3 past, in E3 lore, but then there's only truly a handful of iconic moments. We're talking like that God of War reveal in 2018 and Final Fantasy and the original Breath of the Wild and things like that. You know, you get the iconic moment. And if you go to remember, like, God of War was shown in 2016, not just a trailer, a full-on 15-minute game. Like, not the first thing we ever saw of God of War was a 15-minute gameplay. The first thing we ever saw of Horizon was a 10-minute gameplay. You know, we saw gameplay. Sony Days Gone gameplay. You know, they always show gameplay on that first reveal. You know, with the exception of one or two, which like The Last of Us 2 or Ghost of Tsushima and things. But I would have thought that even if it was just like 30 seconds to a minute of just gameplay, you know, like a loop or something, would have made such a difference. Because you announced the date, and the date is a year and a half away. So you've got to be in a certain state where you can show something a year and a half out. You know, that's what surprised me most, is the fact that if they didn't put a date on it, I would have been happy with the trailer. But the fact that they dated it and it's a year and a half away and you still didn't show gameplay, and now they're saying that gameplay is like a year away, and I'm like, what's wrong with the game? You know, it's because, like, obviously you look at Halo, for example, which has been in development for 5 years and looked like shit in terms of the single player campaign, right?
How dare you?
The multiplayer looked cool, but the single player looked rubbish, right?
Years.
So yeah, you know.
All right, okay.
But,
well, I think I think it kind of made sense that they didn't. For me, it made sense because obviously we've just come through a pandemic. You know, the games that you've mentioned obviously didn't have the same circumstances as we've all faced, as well as these game developers as well. So they're, like I said, playing it really close to the chest, making sure that they don't make the same mistake as they did with Halo. And obviously they're just gonna just whet our appetites just a little bit. If they just gave it all, then there'll be no anticipation. You know, it'll be like, okay, we know what type of game that's gonna be, and maybe it will just fade off into the background. But at least this way, they've got us wanting more. Yeah, they've got us on the edge of their seats. Xbox and PlayStation fans alike, even me as a Nintendo fan. So, you know, I think they've played it well. You know what I mean? Just relax. They've been shooting their load ever since they announced the Xbox Series X, right? They went out straight out the gate, they showed the console, and they thought, yeah, we're Joey Big Bollocks, we're just gonna throw it all out there, and obviously it smacked them in the face. So they've realized we just need to be a bit more conservative, be a bit more Nintendo with things, show a trailer, show a logo, and then people will always be wanting more, you know, as Nintendo has done. Look at Metroid 4. Metroid 4, we've been waiting for bloody years, you know, and it looks like it's not going to come out till maybe another couple of years, but people are still waiting, yeah? So everyone's
Tell you
taking
what,
another massive page from the Nintendo book of how to do things right.
we talked about Halo. You want to talk that something that looked like bollocks? That Metroid was
Well,
right. That, you know what I mean. But anyway,
I don't know
Alex,
what
with
you're
that, I'm
talking about. I
joking.
don't know. Obviously, you
I'm
didn't see
joking.
the
I'm,
right
I'm
Metroid.
winding
You
you up. I'm
obviously seen
joking.
some old school freaking E3 show.
What was your thoughts on obviously the high resolution Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl? They obviously showed that. They showed gameplay. You know, it was a bit disjointed gameplay is the better word. So it was a bit all over the place. We didn't know what was going on. They're speaking Russian, but you got an idea for what the ray tracing is like in that game and things. Did that impress you?
Yeah, it did all impress me. I think with Stalker 2, let me just have a look and see what that was like. What game was that again? Because I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was. Stalker 2. Fucking hell.
So it was the game that was based in Chernobyl. They obviously got the mask on. He's going through like the site and everything, and they were really
Fucking
touting
hell.
ray
That looked
tracing.
fucking yeah, no, that looked fucking bad. And I guess yeah, right. So basically what that showed to me is that Joey Big Bollocks being Xbox is basically just what they just want to express their digital muscle. You know, they just want to flex their muscles, and that's just basically just letting everybody know on both sides, PlayStation and Xbox, know that it is worth having an Xbox Series X console. That's what it was basically showing. Whether that's going to be the final gameplay that we get, or whether it's actually going to run as smoothly as it looks, obviously it's up in the air. But at least they're trying to convince people that it is still worth owning an Xbox console or even being on the Xbox camp thing. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that. But it wasn't one of my favorite games, obviously. It was
Obviously,
nice.
so we skip a few games because they were Xbox only or just updates on games that are currently out. But then, Alex, we spoke about it last week, the CGI trailer of Battlefield 2042. We now had gameplay, and I don't know if I was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. I don't know if I was watching Twister. I don't know if I was watching Rambo, but there was a lot of action in this Battlefield gameplay demo. I mean, what was your thoughts on obviously all the weather, everything going on around? It just looked crazy.
You
Like,
know, that
again, it
fucking
was weird. It looked a lot of fun. But again, I wouldn't pay £70 for that, if you know what I mean. But it just looked a lot of fun at the same time.
you would pay £70 for it if your friends are paying £70 for it. You know, if they can convince, you know, it's all about having that mind share, you know, and if obviously COD's out there as well, but you know, there's gonna be those fanboys who, yeah, they've already done COD, they've played it to death and they want something different. So and to be honest, it looks like a game which I guess we just have to get used to this whole £70 price point. That's just the way the world is right now. So it's just whether it's actually worth the space on your hard drive. That's what's going to be the question now. And for me, I mean, I'm not really a big shoot 'em up guy, but realistically, if I've just done COD was pretty much done November times. This is coming through perfectly. Actually, when's the release date for this one? Actually, did they actually say
October.
October. Okay, so and then when's the next card coming out?
November.
November. Okay. And so they've got a really small window. So basically, just going toe to toe with card. Would I pay it? Yeah. I mean that tornado looked freaking amazing. You know, it looked crazy. COD hasn't done anything like that, you know, with crazy environmental destruction yet. And the amount of players that you're actually able to play with at the same time, I don't think any of the game has touched that yet. I mean, especially at this fidelity. So It's going to be interesting to see how everybody now takes ideas from this and incorporates it into their games.
Can I just
So what was
say,
it saying? How many people? 140 players at the same
128,
time?
128, but can I
128.
just say, and for the PlayStation diehard and the PlayStation Illuminati that are listening with me, right, who have
Yeah.
the IQ of PlayStation genius levels, 128, that's baby PS3 massive action game, 256 player maps on PS3. Now that was technically impressive for its time. Shit game, but 256 people
There you
were
go.
playing
There you
it
go.
at the
It
same
was a
time.
shit game. You
You
know,
know what I mean?
you could have Pong. You could have Pong with 1 million players.
Nah,
Yeah,
nah,
and
nah.
people just be like, "Yeah, great, we got 1 million players playing at the same time," but it's still a shit game. You know
But
what
I
I mean?
mean,
So like,
we
it's all
skip
about
it.
quality.
So we skip it through the big news. Obviously, from a third-party standpoint, Hades is coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X.
Yeah,
How is that game gonna go with trophies? As obviously, how many run-throughs do you think people have to do to go for a platinum trophy? Obviously, on the next-gen machines, you've got 4K 60 frames per second for Hades as well. I think it's just great that more people get an opportunity to play this game, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, it's an indie game, you know, which has got so much success. You know what I mean? We want to see a lot more of these. So yes, it's just encouraging. We had it with Cuphead. I mean, what other games have come out? Obviously, Hades is like the next big one. Among Us as well. You know, no. What's the one I'm looking? What's the one I'm thinking about? I
Fall
can't. The
Guys.
name escapes me. Anyway, no, not Fall Guys. Fall Guys as well. That's another one. But at the same time, it's it's just a great platform, and that's what I actually liked about the Summer Games Fest, that they were actually focusing on a lot of indie developers. Because right now, all the big boys are just bringing out the same things. They're just doing better graphics and they're just releasing it, the same way they would do. It's just business. It's every day. But I want to see some innovation, and that's what these big boys need to remember. That's what got them into the position in the first place, innovation. So come on, start sipping that innovative juice.
So obviously a big one for Microsoft was Halo, and it looked like they were gearing up to prove a point after the abysmal approach and performance of the year before. But then we didn't see a single piece of campaign. We just got shown multiplayer, and a montage of little bits of gameplay, which, don't get me wrong, looked like traditional Halo multiplayer gameplay, which means it's a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 multiplayer game. But the proof and the statement intent had to be single player campaign after last year, and then there wasn't a single piece shown of it. And industry insiders are talking about that things aren't looking good for the campaign mode, behind the scenes, and they're working overtime. They've got multiple studios brought in to assist with it. But I mean, just your thoughts really fast on obviously Halo multiplayer and what they showed.
Sick. I mean, it looks exact for all Halo fans. This is going to be the perfect opportunity just to flex your muscle and just go nuts on a massive Halo multiplayer, even if the campaign mode is not that great. As we've seen with COD, as we've seen with Battlefield, it's just a case of just getting mass multiplayers online and just going nuts. You know what I mean? Just people gunning each other down in whatever skin they have. And how many people want to do that on Halo, especially on the latest hardware? At 60 FPS, if at least, you know what I mean? Because Xbox is probably going to push it to about 120, and it won't even break a sweat. So it looks like a lot of fun. The campaign, it's going to be something that they need to work on, because they obviously know how messed up the first initial unveiling was. But again, the same way as they have done for the whole presentation, just don't release everything. Don't let everybody know all your plans. You know what I mean? Just take your time and realize that you've still got your own events that you can still showcase more information about, as well as E3 coming up next year, as well as other events. So I think people have realized that you don't need to shoot your load during E3. And I guess that's kind of showing the impact that E3 show does actually have now. In this 21st, well, in 2021, it's not as prominent as it used to be, 20 years ago. So now, because people have many more options, you have Twitter. I mean, the whole of Capcom's E3 presentation could have just been like a Twitter Twitter feed. Literally, they could have just posted it on there. 2 games coming up there, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's it. They would have been done. They didn't have to take a whole 30-minute segment for it. But these are the options that developers have now, and Xbox is obviously, they know this. They understand this. So just take the time. They don't have to show everything now. They've still got their core fans. People are still going to be signing up to xCloud and XPass. They've got plenty of games for people to jump onto, even though they are of them are cross-platform games, but it doesn't matter. They've still got the tech. You know, they've still got a good position, which is unlike anybody else in the industry right now. So, and I think they're starting to realize it. They're starting to believe that they could actually compete in their own lane. You know, so yeah, that's what I'll say about that. So that's why we hardly saw anything with Halo, and I just hope that they just take their time. You know, we don't want another cyberpunk incident, you know, with things just breaking as soon as they show the trailer. You know, we've had enough of that. That was 2020. Yeah. So just take your time, make sure it's all polished, and then come out with something which is going to blow the socks off everybody, you know, and hopefully something which is just going to be dedicated for next gen, for the Xbox Series X, as opposed to a cross-generation title, which is what the multiplayer kind of looked like to me. Just looked like they were just kind of, you know, catering for the Xbox One One fans and users. So only time will tell. But hopefully by the end of the year, probably by the game of what's it called? Game of the year, you know, at the end of the year, your event.
Game
Hopefully
Awards.
they've got something. Game Awards. Yeah, hopefully, I don't know when I'm playing today. Hopefully they've got something really good to showcase then. And I think that's where my money is, because that's where they're going to be like, okay, yeah, we know we cocked up last year. Let's just do right. You know.
Well, that's what this
That's what my
E3 was
money's on.
supposed to be about. You know what I mean? To prove that.
No,
But I mean, the big
it
one.
wasn't. It wasn't.
The big one
It
was
could have been. I don't think it
obviously they showed a couple more CGI trailers and things like that, and
Yeah.
games that were already out that were coming to Xbox. The big one was obviously the announcement and unveiling of Forza Horizon 5, which looked cool. You spoke about Xbox Series X being not breaking a sweat at 120, whereas the developers of Horizon 5 have only capped Horizon 5 at 30 frames per second on the Series X with the graphics. So you can see
Yeah.
that when you push these photorealistic graphics the way Forza Horizon have, you really are capping at that frame rate, you know, and the power that you can obviously go on. But what was your thoughts really quick, obviously, on Forza Horizon 5 and then Xbox E3 as a whole? How would you grade the show out of 10?
Okay,
So
Forza Horizon 5 was probably the most impressive game that I saw throughout the whole Xbox presentation. Visually, it was stunning, and what the developers said, what they went through, it just like, what did they record, like 20 hours of sky just to wait form for the clouds? That's dedication, you know. And Forza games have always been visually impressive, and the fact is that they're able to push out constantly, you know, high quality games when, you know, Gran Turismo's taken freaking years to just get out of the starting
Gran
blocks.
Turismo
You know,
always does, man. I think the last time it came out fast was PS1 with Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2.
exactly,
After
and they were
that,
probably working on it for years before then.
you
So
have to
it
wait.
will come out. It will be a great game, but if you just want great arcade fun with a bit of Gran Turismo realism, Forza just ticks all the boxes and then some. You know, because they've gone to Mexico. You know what I mean? They're what, in Forza Horizon, was it 4? They mapped all the key cities within the UK. You know, and you could just go nuts. How many games can you do that with? You know, there's only a handful of games. So Forza looked amazing. But my thoughts on whole for the Xbox presentation. Oh, hold on, can't even finish it without saying Elden Ring. You know, the big game which everybody was thinking
Well, we
about.
spoke about that last week. That was on
Yeah,
the summer showcase. But I mean,
yeah,
that will be for our main show. So listeners, we're going to talk about
yeah,
Elden Ring on the latest PS5, because obviously a lot of gameplay stuff came out.
yeah.
Details about that after. But I mean, that is an exciting game, isn't it?
It is an exciting game, yeah. But all in all, it was a great show, and yeah, they were the big guns for this year. And yeah, they're very lucky that Sony wasn't there to pretty much smack them silly with something else. But at the same time, it was good to see that Xbox kind of realized that, yeah, okay, like I've said multiple times, don't need to shoot your load. You know, just take your time, show what you've got, show that you still are supporting the actual brand. You know, even though there are rumors that they're going to be moving to the console market, but at least you still have a plethora of games which are going to be going to X Pass, and Game Cloud. So it's just going to be it's going to be a great future for them, and you can see that they're literally just laying the foundations, you know, for the next 10 years. You know, they're forgetting about consoles. They're just going to be going straight to cloud. And obviously we're actually seeing the fruit from the labor of all the studios that they purchased over the past years. At least we're actually seeing what they're actually doing. You know, and that's the main thing. So we've got a good amount of content. As long as they had Halo on there and Forza on there, they knew that they sealed the deal. Everything else was just, you know, just fluff, icing on the cake. So it was a good presentation, and probably one of the best of E3 21.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, it's funny because I watch people and they were applauding like it was one of the greatest ever. Obviously their affiliation is with Xbox, but in my head I realized,
Nope.
you know, when you take it,
Nope.
when you get the initial, it's funny because the amount of people like S rank conference, then 24 hours later they've dropped it from an S rank to like an A minus or something, and it's just like I just watched it and I realized when something has been consistently average for years, and then you pull off what Microsoft did this past week at E3, which is go from average to great, you get a bigger, oh wow, if you know what I mean. But then if, as I mentioned before it, if you're a Nintendo fan or a Sony fan who watched their conferences and their shows in the history, your expectation level and the bar is already so high that even if I'll tell you straight, if Sony had pulled that show, which was CGI and didn't show the big guns that people were expecting, wasn't showing that much gameplay, Sony would have been crucified for showing that sort of a show. You know, that's the level that Sony and Nintendo are at when it comes to conferences and briefings, and Microsoft are lifting themselves up. And now they realize, now next year they're going to have to bring their A game because people are going to compare it to 21. You know, they're gonna have to keep that consistency. But Phil Spencer's ego is gonna come in, and he's gonna be like, "I want more stage time. I want to talk more gibberish." You know, and just let the games do the talking, which is what Sony have been doing for the last couple of years. Same with Nintendo. So we'll see. But we'll move on to the latest PS5, where we will talk obviously more PS5 E3 games. We're going to talk about upcoming games and their DualSense features. But Alex, we cannot go a week recently without talking about Hideo Kojima, which is what we're going to get to on the latest PS5. I can't wait. So Patreons, thank you very much for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. Half of you there. Hope you're enjoying the Euros and the sunny weather and playing games and Ratchet and Clank and everything. And join us on the latest PS5.